And of course, welcome to how to captivate your audience in the first 30 seconds. And not only are we captivating our audience at the beginning, we use many of the same techniques to transition into our next idea or chunk of content. And I believe the purpose of our opening is to arouse interest in our subject. And there are many ways. And in many openings, you use a combination of three. So the first one is a question. And if you, any part of your presentation, find yourself saying, have you ever stood up to speak and forgotten what you're going to say? And the audience thinks, oh, yes, it was horrible, I lived through it. I suggest you add one word. How often have you walked on stage and forgotten what you're going to say? The assumption is if it's happened more than once, it will happen again, and your advice is going to now be more valuable. We can also use a rhetorical question. If I were to ask you, is 2025 the year you double the quality of your presentations? Perhaps you'd say yes. Perhaps you'd say no. Most likely you would say, Patricia, I would love it to be, can you tell me how? So the formula is yes, no, I would like it to be. And the secret is always put your name in it. Patricia, can you tell me how? Because I don't care how much they love us, most of the time, if we are not a celebrity, they do not remember our names. It's true. Then one of my all-time favorites, interesting statistics and little-known facts. With my engineers, I always pull out the most dramatic statistic and put it at the top to arouse interest in what will follow. The secret with an interesting statistic or little-known fact is you add an emotion. It might interest you to know. It might surprise you to know. It might please you to know. It might shock you to know. It might interest you to know that in my walk-on music, David Bowie's Heroes, that was my brother, Robert Fripp, playing the guitar. It might surprise you to know he flew from New York to Berlin, got in a taxi, went straight to the studio, said to David Bowie, play me what you've recorded. And what you hear on the album is his first improvised take. That is mastery, which is what he talked about at the winter workshop when NSA rocked. Speakerpalooza, which was Brian Walter's name. Is Brian here? Wave. Well, Brian it comes up with Speakerpalooza, but that was a great session. It might please you to know that based on 48 years and my very extensive informal research, 98.2% of NSA members will tell you, if you attend the conferences, get involved in your chapter, you will cut minimum 5 years off your learning curve. And it might shock you to know that 94% of inmates on death row do not believe they're responsible for what put them there. Then transport your audience. This is time travel. And we can transport our audience to the past, or we could take them into the future. If we take them to the past, it might be, let's go back to the end of World War II. Or Who amongst us will forget January 2020? Or our combined story began in the early 70s in Phoenix, Arizona, when Cavett Robert and a group of speakers sat around a lunch table and all wrote a $500 check they put in the middle of the table to start NSA. And no, they never asked for their money back. I know because I had dinner with two of them, Rita Davenport and Tommy Hopkins, in January. Good. So you transport the audience, then if you want to include them in your story, you can transport them to the past by saying, I wish you could have been there. Or, can you imagine how I felt when? You're bringing the audience into your experience. When you transport them to the future, you are using a phrase that usually begins with imagine. Imagine. It is March the 8th, 2026. And as you're getting ready to go out for your speaking engagement, you realize it's the highest fee you've ever been paid. Your clothes cost more than you ever dreamed of spending. And as you reflect on what made this such a good day, you remember to March the 8th, 2025, when you attended the Thrive Conference. So you see, if you take your audience to the future that's successful, then teach them what you're teaching them, and then at the end bring it back and say, will that picture be a reality? It depends on the actions you take. And then get into the scene late. This is a technique that comes from my friend Michael Haig, who is a story consultant in Hollywood. And he says, Patricia, most speakers spend too much time getting into the story. You have to get into the scene late. That's very much what I did with the email said. You get straight to the action. Imagine I am telling a story that begins, Mary had a problem. Now, what are you thinking? Who's Mary? What's her problem? Then you give the backstory. Mary was a seasoned HR professional. For 20 years, she'd run HR departments in the most prestigious companies in Silicon Valley. Now, what do you know that I don't have to tell you? Mary eats problems for lunch. Mary gets invited to SHRM, the HR association, to run panels and give speeches on solving HR problems. Next line. Dan walks in and says, Mary, we're about to be sued for $28 million, and I think it was my fault.